Do I hit this? Got it on the screen, Mary?
Yeah, got
I don't
it.
know what to touch. I don't know how to do this. She's doing
Well,
it.
hello again, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. And yes, I'm back. I took some time out last week. Good to be back again. Really good to see you all again. And wow, really got such a cool and amazing, interesting guest with me tonight here. I have with me William Steele, who I'm going to hand over to you in just a minute, William. But just to give our guests a little bit of a intel into you, for those of you who don't know yet, William is pretty much was the dealer of cocaine as well as the jewelry, sold jewelry to Ghislaine and Jeffrey. So pretty much had personal dealings with them, was privy to a lot of information. Not just with that, but also I want to look at that. Sorry, the name again. Robert, is it Durst? Robert
First,
Durst had you've had very interesting interactions, or at least some interactions with Robert Durst, who you just explained to me is one of America's most notorious serial killers as well.
wealthiest.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, so you've had quite an interesting past. I know you've done some time as well for non-violent crime. You've pretty much been involved in the drug industry, stuff like that. But I would love for you to, before we get anywhere way too ahead, maybe just take us back to who you are, where do you come from, how the heck did you end up selling cocaine to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell? And, well, we know that you had some little feisty moments with Ghislaine as well. So never did I think in a million years I would be interviewing someone who actually had, you know, personal connections with these guys, not just Ghislaine, but Jeffrey as well, and obviously so much that goes on in these places. So I'm delighted to have you, William. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa, and thank you so much for taking the time to come and share your story with us. Really happy to have you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's interesting to be interviewed from somebody from South Africa. As you know, I'm from New York City, and I'm just glad to be on the show. I'll give you a little bit about my background. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, a middle class family. And I always wanted to be a James Bond type. I wanted to be this guy who can be like him and help people all for the greater good. You know, I believed in all that when I was younger. Mission Impossible. And so my mother was mentally ill. So I found myself in my childhood defending my mother from neighborhood bullies and just problems when I was a kid. And so I always had this dream of being this defender, this really good guy. And what happened was I was in real estate as a young man, and I saw advertised a locksmith, a trade school for locksmithing and alarms and safes. And I took that, graduated top of my class, and I became very proficient in locks, alarms, and safes and vaults. Well, a few years after this, a friend of mine passed away, and I was very depressed. Other friends offered me some coke. I used some coke to kind of mitigate, the emotional pain I was going through. And I ended up over my head. I ended up trafficking guns and kilo levels of cocaine from South Florida, Miami, South Florida to New York. Guns for many years in the 80s and 90s. Anyway, I went to prison. I served, and I was doing burglaries at the same time all across the United States. I was doing multi-million-dollar jewel and art heists all over. I was very prolific. I was very much a loner when I did it. I didn't trust ever having a partner. And so I was living on the high life, and I was traveling between South Florida, New York, Las Vegas, California, Laguna Beach, Los Angeles, doing what I do and living it up and living by my own, just my own law. So I ended up going to prison for a long time, about 18 years for nonviolent offenses. But prior to that time and in this life, I met many characters who are now infamous, including Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Robert Durst, some other celebrities in California, and the list goes on. So now, when I went to prison, I started taking some college and university courses, and I really got involved with working with the chaplain's office and helping people with the education department. I was helping inmates who were wrongly convicted and in prison. They were innocent. I was helping people navigate the prison system with their grievances and their medical needs, trying to get help. It's always been me to help people. And I just got really derailed when I was using so much coke. Um, so in the course of
Yeah.
me serving this last prison sentence, and I've been out now 14 months, I took these courses. We fought hard for years to get university courses into the facilities. And finally, I was able to take a few of them. And my mother passed away while I was incarcerated. And so I had a big falling out with my family over inheritance and issues like that. And I started writing a book about my life. And as I'm writing this book, now, some of the things I went through at the hands of GHISLAINE specifically, I've been in counseling for several years ago, and went to the authorities. Nothing was done about it. But so in this process, I started writing a book about my life. And she and Jeffrey and these other people were going to be basically a chapter in my life story. Well, they started suddenly becoming infamous and being in the media constantly. Well, my co-author on my first book, um, this one here, Sex and the Serial Killer, is Gary Greenberg. Now, Gary was the editor in chief of the National Enquirer. And he said, look, it's very important that you tell that story now because he's in the media. He just got arrested. Just, put a book out about your experience with him. So that first book came out while I was still incarcerated. Just before my release, my public relations guy, Tom Madden, he was the vice president of NBC TV in New York. So he's my best friend. He introduced me to my now fiance, Dr. Mary Bass. And so I met her. I fell in love. Well, right after I met her and a few months before my release, there was a COVID pandemic. So we were locked down in the prison. We couldn't have any movement. People were dying all over the prison from COVID. And I was trying to get released earlier. And then the governor of the state wouldn't do anything for many people. They didn't care who died. Anyway, after 18 years, I figured, well, I've well behaved. I've never get in trouble. I'm doing all these college programs. They were letting select people out, but I couldn't get released. Just before my release, I was offered a TV show about my life and reentry into society by a major network, which 3 days ago I couldn't tell anybody anything about it, but now I can on A&E Network. It's going to be on A&E Network airing August 18th. There's a link to the trailer in your description for this interview. Anybody
Yeah.
wants to see the trailer, you can go to the official William Steele Instagram or YouTube. Go to official William Steele and you can see the trailer. It's called Inmate to Roommate. And it's about the reentry process because recidivism rates are held down when people coming out of incarceration have a stable place to live. In my case, I did not want to go immediately back to New York or South Florida because of family issues. And I just thought it was best to get a fresh start. So I started in the Midwest, and which we filmed, I can't tell you how many episodes, but numerous episodes. And so now it finally airs. And that's what I've been doing. I've been setting up my own channel. It's so much like you have, just trying to help people get the word out about these pedophiles that are now in the news, and try to help tell the stories and deal with some healing from my past. And I'm working with my fiance, Dr. Mary Bass. She's sitting here helping me now with this technology because when I went to prison, social media didn't exist. These podcasts and all the social. So, these smartphones didn't exist. I have one now and I'm still struggling with how to use it and navigate the social media and these interview programs. But I'm a pretty quick study, so I'm learning how to do all this. And so that's a little bit the abbreviated version of my life. Um,
Good. I find that very interesting, and thank you for that. I would definitely like to touch on the books, the books that you've written, Sex and the Serial Killer, which is really about your connection with Robert Durst and how that was, and then of course I've just seen the trailer of Inmate to Roommate, which I thought was completely fascinating. So I would love to speak more with you about that as well. But I think I'd love to do with you is maybe take it maybe into even another one or two interviews beyond this, and we can go more into that. So what I'd really like is to give an overview this evening or this morning for you, um, and just to understand your connection to that. So I listened to you on Sean Atwood the other day. You were interviewed by Sean Atwood. Brilliant interview, by the way. I really, really enjoyed it. He's a great interviewer, Sean. He's
Thank
really
you.
fantastic. Yeah, and
That sorry to cut you off real quick, but I couldn't even believe it myself because the second that interview went up, it exploded viral. That was part two. And he
yeah,
said the first one I did a few weeks ago had like 200,000 to 300,000 views already. And the second one I did is already up to like 20,000 in just the
yeah,
last few days. So I'm really humbled by the attention I'm getting. And I'm just so grateful for the support because most people coming out of prison don't have the opportunities and the connections that I was able to make to get back on there.
absolutely.
Yes, and
Well, we're
I have
grateful. We're grateful that you're here and that you can actually speak and share with us. So tell us how, William, how did you manage to get involved with Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, these are two of the most notorious pedophile names right now, and highest ranking names in the dirty business. So, tell us, how on earth did you manage to get involved there, and talk us through that?
Well, it's really laid out in detail in the book. But to be brief, I was selling a lot of stolen jewelry and artwork over the years. And it came a point where in Palm Beach, there's a street, Worth Avenue is a very high end street. And as your viewers probably know, Palm Beach is one of the wealthiest communities in the United States anyway. It's, heads of state, celebrities, the mansions are in the tens of millions of dollars. Jeffrey Epstein had his house there. I was in a jewelry salon with a diamond dealer who was a fence of mine, a fence being somebody who buys stolen jewelry. And I don't discuss my illegal dealings with him in front of people. Now, at the time, I was a fugitive. I used to carry a lot of guns. I actually had a gun with a silencer on it in my briefcase, in my bag, whatever. And I would have that because I worked alone and as a sign to show people I'm not to be messed with. You know, I'm not hurting anybody, but it was like an image I was putting forth to let people know don't screw with me. So
Yeah,
a lot of these business people saw me carry myself like that. A lot of the criminal elements saw me carry myself like that. I'd open a briefcase, there's a gun, whatever, jewelry. And so I'm in there waiting to see him. And I have three reasons not to, have anybody know what I'm doing. One, it's all illegal. Two, I'm wanted. I have a gun with a silencer and I have stolen jewelry. So there's many reasons I don't want anybody to know what I'm doing. And on the other side, across from me, is who I now know to be Jeffrey Epstein. Now he's standing there getting waited on by my friend. I don't know what he was buying for her or for somebody else. And he had, when my friend was turning around doing something, had slid his hand down the back of this young girl's shorts. Now the girl looked to be about 13 years old. She looked exactly like Jodie Foster, the actress, when she was about 13 years old in the movie Taxi Driver. So she was a look-alike for Jodie Foster. And I saw that, and all these alarm bells went off. I said, this piece of crap. I don't know. So, I'm a different guy. I try not to use a lot of profanity, but a lot of stuff went through my mind, and I don't really, go for that. Who does? Who in their right mind would? We all have loved ones, and we don't believe in messing with kids. So I kind of waited for him to finish up, and as he left and went down, there was a staircase and an elevator. I told my friend, "Hey, I'll be back in a few minutes." I didn't even have a chance to speak to him. I quickly followed him, Jeffrey, to a store, a restaurant up the street. It was back then it was called Taboo. It was a pretty well-known cafe on Worth Avenue. And they went in there. I went in there, sat near them, and he and I confronted him in this place, and I actually insisted he come sit with me, and I showed him the gun under the table, and I said I confronted him about what was going on, and he was stumbling all over himself, and I picked up on his Brooklyn accent because I'm from Brooklyn, and I said, you're from New York. I said, no matter where you're from, you should know better. What the F are you doing? And he claimed it was his niece. I said, I don't give a F who it is. You don't put your hands on a young girl like that. What is your effing problem? So and I said, look, you're going to sit right here. Don't freaking move. I said, I just was bluffing him. I said, I'll shoot you right here in this restaurant. So I walked to the girls' table where she was, and I asked her, I said, I saw what was going on at the diamond at the jewelry store, and she already had her answer ready. They're saying that she was his niece and that they play around like that. And I said, how old are you? And she lied and told me she was 18. And I knew she was lying, but there wasn't much I could do about it. And I told him, I lied to him and said I was a jewelry dealer. He says, well, I buy a lot of jewelry, let me give you my number. And he gave me his number on something. I think it was wrote on a napkin or whatever. And he had given me his number. And that's how I first met him. And if I was in a more private place, it might have turned out a lot differently, if you know what I mean. It wouldn't have come out there intact. But under the circumstances, me being wanted and having all this illegal stuff with me, and again, I detail it much more in the book. So then there were several other meetings, and then being invited over to the house, and then eventually meeting GHISLAINE there, and then him I sensed even back then, trying to trap me into a situation with these young models or masseuses that were coming and going from the house. And I'm like, you sure have a lot of young people and, there was even foreign girls there that didn't speak English coming and going. And
How old are these girls? When you say there were all these girls, they're foreign girls, local girls. I mean, how old are we talking? I mean, I know Epstein was known to like teenagers, young sort of teenagers. But I mean, are we talking like really badly? And I mean, a teenage girl is bad enough, but are we talking children, really underage children, yeah? Or are we still talking teenagers, which is very much on the border, kind of sketchy, I would imagine?
there was a little of everything. And he always said they were models, and some of them he said were giving him massages. Now, at that time, I didn't know. Of course, we all know now what that really meant. But then I didn't know. I was like, okay, this is feeling weird, but I'm not seeing anything at this point, like sexual. And there was times when he offered to let them massage me. And at this time, GHISLAINE was encouraging that also. And I think he used her to try to draw me into that because he knew I had threatened him in the restaurant. I said, my friend has cameras in that jewelry store. And there's nothing for me if I wanted to go to the cops and turn those videos in. And then I caught myself when I said, well, I shouldn't have told him that because he clearly has a lot of wealth and he could go back to the guy and buy the tapes from that day and just, squash it. But I don't know if he did that or not, but there's certainly those videos existed of him touching that girl then. And I felt like because I had threatened him with the police and with, my own vengeance, that he was looking for an opportunity to get me in a blackmail situation. And so this is why he was constantly trying to get me to agree to get a massage from one of these girls, and God knows what would have come next. But I wasn't going to do it with anybody in that house because I just got such a creepy vibe being even in this house.
How long? How long at this point? I mean, how often did you see them? I mean, I know you were obviously supplying them with drugs and recreational stuff. So, how often did you go there that you saw these people coming and going?
I probably maybe once a month, once every 2 months, even just random sometimes. You know, um, they were completely different than me. I was what I call a street guy from New York, which, my fiance says, you're not from the streets, you're from a good family. But you know what I mean? I'm kind of like a worldly New Yorker, but I see that they're like light years above me in wealth and understanding of, international things. And so I was out of my element, but I was always kind of looking for an opportunity to either get what I could from Jeffrey, or maybe there was a lot of artwork there, which a lot of it was really creepy. There was such artwork with young girls and stuff, and a lot of nudes everywhere. And it was kind of a creepy environment. But if he had some valuable artwork and I could leave with it at that time, I was going to do that. But so I just kind of, for making money, kept going back. And because he couldn't lure me, I feel now, because he couldn't lure me into participating at that level of massage, that he had Ghislaine start coming on to me, I believe, and that's how she and I ended up in a relationship, um, a sexual relationship. And
Tell
so
us about this. Yeah, about your interaction with Ghislaine. So, are you saying that because Jeffrey couldn't lure you in to do the younger girl activities, put it that way, Ghislaine then started grooming you? Because I would imagine that is also, I mean, knowing what we know now about these people, that was probably her grooming process. So if he couldn't lure you in, she was going to groom you, right? From her side, is that right?
I believe that now to be the case, and I sensed that at a gut level then. I think it's pretty much concretely understood by me now that that's exactly what was going on. There's not wasn't going to be free, no strings sex with her or her adult assistant because we had threesomes, um, unless it eventually, I would imagine some young girl walking in the room, and I was not going to allow that. And so I was really cautious and I just think that's what was going on. She was trying to get me implicated somehow, and I just sensed it. I just sensed it at an innate level that there was something inappropriate. I think some of these wealthy people that they have blackmailed and videoed, or maybe were part of other things going on, which I think you've exposed, um, that I'm still clueless about. I saw certain things I was uncomfortable with, and I don't know how much I can go into today, or how much my lawyers or the law enforcement wants me to even say, but there was probably a lot more to it. But a lot of the people that were, when I eventually, Jeffrey kind of forced me to see these videos, the people I saw clearly looked like they did not know they were being
Hang
filmed.
on. What do you mean he forced you to see these videos? And I ask you this because we've often heard how these guys in these secret societies and the upper echelon, these royalists and the business titans and stuff, they're part of the secret brotherhood and they pretty much are forced to keep each other's secrets, right? So, what do you mean he forced you to watch these videos? How did that happen?
Well,
That
what you're saying about these higher level people and forcing to keep secrets, I know nothing about that. I'm beginning to learn about it through people like you and others that are explaining it to me. Um, and it's kind of starting to mesh with things I did see there. I don't know what they did that what I saw on video were people who clearly didn't know they were being filmed. So, including Andrew, including Hillary Clinton, including Bill Clinton, including some of the lawyers that are involved, other people that I'm not going to get into a lot of the names now, um, clearly did not know they were being filmed. So these might be the blackmail cases you hear about. Um, what happened was, so I'm with her, he shows up, I'm with her and an assistant, and he comes in with a security detail guy. Again, my speculation now is he's holding a grudge because I pull a gun on him, I threaten to call the cops on him. And so he comes in with a guy. He knows I'm messing around with her occasionally, and it's all good. It seems like they're like in an open relationship. Well, they stand at the door, and I try to cover myself, and he says, "No, no, no, stay right there, don't move." And I said, "What's this all about?" I thought he was going to try to say something was missing from the house. I don't know. He knew what I did for a living, which was traffic guns, kilos, and steel. And so I figured I was going to get accused of stealing something. So I said, "What's up, Jeffrey? What, why feel like you're holding me hostage here? And I'm trying to cover myself up." And he says, "I want you to see something." And this is when I was made to not leave the room. I said, "I don't need to see this." And I get choked up thinking about some of the things I saw. But this was like a 2 hour thing almost of different clips. And then when I saw Andrew, he called Andrew his Super Bowl trophy. And I knew who he was because I saw media clips of him in the past and everything. And then there was some other children of royals that were not, I don't think part of Jeffrey's, but I think he got videos of them from Andrew. So
are
he would
these are these children of these royals? Were they adult children? They're the ones you're referring to, or
no, they
children?
were they were they were minors, clearly minors. Um,
So they were being abused by
I
adults.
I'd rather yes by adults. Yeah. And then there was something there with who I know now to be concretely was a prince. Princess Margaret, who I don't think's alive anymore. And there was hidden videos with her, with a certain rock star, and then there was another one. It was these were all black and white, and I think was with maybe her husband in it, and with threesomes and stuff like that. It looked like they were made in the '60s. So he had possession of all this stuff. So he was saying how he got some material from Andrew because Andrew became concerned that he was on video now because he bragged that he owned Andrew, that Andrew was his Super Bowl trophy. It was really disturbing. And, you know, you talk about minors, even like the young girls is one thing, but there were cases, a lot of this has been brought to my mind lately because I didn't make the connection really until you and I started talking. There was times when there was like women coming in there with young children, babies and stuff. And if I was downstairs, it was different places. I didn't like to be around any of the staff. I wanted to be up in the bedroom, you know, and where you'd see somebody come in and they might be there for half a day or even just for a few hours. But I have to be careful how much I say. But you'd see them leave and then the child was left behind. Like, I'm like, I didn't think to even ask, you know, how come she
Are
didn't
you
take
saying,
it?
I want to just clarify this. So the people that were bringing these children there, would it usually be a parent, maybe a mum or a dad, a family member, a nanny? Who are the people bringing these children? I'm just trying to understand.
I don't know. And I never even really thought much about it until the last few weeks. But I do remember, you know, at least one really sticks out in my mind where it was clearly a local girl who brought a baby in the house, but when she left, the baby was no longer with her. Like the baby was left there. And I figured maybe they were babysitting for the girl while she went out shopping or something. And that might have been the case. But so now I have a different outlook on why maybe that baby was actually left with them or maybe purchased from this girl. Um, it's just starting to give me nightmares. I had a really bad nightmare last night thinking about this and getting ready for this interview. Um, it wasn't directly related to this, but I don't normally have nightmares. But now thinking how, you know, there came a time years later when Ghislaine had me restrained and was threatening to turn me in for something. And there's a detailed chapter in the book about what happened to me. And I don't see myself as a victim. The females are the victims. They're the ones that inspired me to, as a guy, tell my story because there's not many guys that are coming forward telling the story about what they experience at the hands of these people. Now, when she went up for sentencing last week, I submitted a victim impact statement. The court wouldn't even allow it in. And I heard that Sarah Ransone tried the same thing. She's one of the victims. And they wouldn't let hers in because in mine, I specifically named Hillary Clinton in mine. And no matter who mentions these people or has proof about what's going on, you turn up dead or there's a problem or nobody wants to hear you. They shut you down. You can't talk about these people. Um,
What can you, I mean, when you talk about Hillary Clinton, HRC has been, has been doing the troll, well, she's been doing the rounds in these communities since all this nonsense began. I think it's no great secret who she is and what she's about. I'm interested to know because a lot of my people I speak to who've been under SRA, who've been hectically SRA'd, if you will. She's been
what
very
is
much
what? Forgive my ignorance. What is SRA?
satanically ritually abused
Oh,
because so they're very much involved with that. I mean, Hillary's name comes up a lot when it comes in these circles regarding those things. Are you actually saying that you met Hillary there as well at part
no,
of the?
I didn't meet her. I saw videos. She is
Oh, I
in.
see.
There's
Okay.
minors with her,
Yes.
and they're having sex. Everybody's naked. It's clearly her, and
Hmm.
another one's Bill Clinton, and she's with numerous of these young girls.
Yeah,
And
she apparently loves girls. Hillary has she only wants girls. Yeah, she's apparently yeah.
right, and she was as voracious at that as I don't know. I don't know what to compare it to. It was really disturbing to see. Um,
How did
And
you feel seeing the stuff? I mean, William, you must have been shocked, when suddenly you come there, have a little bit of fun time now and again, make some bucks. These are rich rollers, kind of. The next thing you seeing these blackmail tapes. That obviously that's what they use for blackmail. And I mean, this is crazy. I've got to look at this. Is so hilarious here. I'm just looking at our live chat, and we've got trolls on here, and it's like these. It's amazing. The more the people don't want you to be talking to someone, the more spam, and it's all these like sex date site things they're putting on here. And I'm just watching. Thank you, Morné. He's catching them left, right, and center. But it's very interesting. Anyway, so what I'm asking you is, I mean, the first time you see something like that, Andrew with children, Hillary with children, the royal children being abused by older people, whoever they were, you must have been pretty damn shocked when you saw that, right? I mean, what were your thoughts? Where was your head at this point when you're seeing all of the stuff that's unraveling in front of your eyes now?
I wanted to get out of there with my life, and it was really about survival mode at that time, and trying to find a way to turn them in a way where something would actually be done about it. And me realizing that these people are probably all billionaires, and who the hell am I? And he bragged that he had law enforcement and everybody in his pocket, and here I was, a guy that does a lot of illegal things for a living. And just like the girls who all came forward from that area, I was living in that area at the time. Who the hell's going to believe me, somebody who's known to be a prolific, burglar slash jewel thief, gun trafficker, cocaine trafficker, and that I stumbled across this den of, you know, God knows what in the heart of Palm Beach, where their image is everything. We all know behind these mansions and a lot of households, a lot of crazy things go on. There's a lot of people held hostage or sex trafficked or being abused or locked in the basement in chains and all that. We've heard all the stories. I've been in prison with guys who have done that. And I'll tell you what, being around them, you develop a radar for these type of people because
Yeah.
they all have certain traits. And I like that. I think it's like a demonic thing, but there's a game, Dungeons and Dragons, like a lot of the guys in prison, the pedophiles, they all gravitate and play that game every day. They all act really socially awkward and weird, 99% of them. Or they're very, very reserved and paranoid for no reason at all until you know how to read people and you can see that they're hiding that or concealing that or hoping that doesn't get out. But so you learn how to read these people, and I've, I'm very good dealing with people because, like I said, I was a law clerk in prison, and I've always been really open to listen to people's stories. And if I'm going to help people in the law library, I have to pretend to be non-judgmental. And I could tell you the pedophiles are some of the worst people I've ever encountered in my life, and 99% of them are not repentant at all. They're that's what they focus on. That's what they enjoy. That's what they like, and they don't care. That they got caught. They get out. Most of them will do it again.
Yeah, there's not much retribution there. I agree.
Yep.
Okay, so you, as a matter of interest, at what point in your how long had you known Jeffrey and Ghislaine before he showed you these videos? Was that on the first night or the first encounter after you'd?
Oh, I'd say that was after probably a few months.
Okay, cool.
He had the opportunity because he couldn't get to me with the younger models.
Yes.
So I guess he
So
put her in my path, and that made it easier for me. She's an adult and whatever, and she's a wealthy woman. So what's the big deal? And it turned into like she was, I think, setting me up for this all along.
totally, it just sounds like this little flippin' nest going on in there. Okay,
Yeah.
so then you see that now. What I've also heard in one of your previous interviews is that at some point she asks you to take the dude out, to take Epstein out. How, explain that to us, please. How did that happen? And yeah, okay. I know that there's some stuff in the book that obviously you don't want to disclose here. So just again to tell our viewers, the book is in the link There we go. Thank you so much. Morné will put pictures of that up. And just so, by the way, so our viewers know, this interview is not staying up on YouTube after this. We're probably going to take it down like an hour or two later because I'm pretty sure we're going to get a strike. It's going to be on Rumble. And it's going to be on BitChute and ODYSEE, no doubt. Morné will put it up on our back channels. So we're just doing this on YouTube for the live.
And
So
if your listeners want to learn more, yeah, they could also go to my official William Steele on YouTube, and I have several of my interviews posted up there, and
okay,
the
brilliant.
trailer for the TV show. I'm trying to build my followers, so if you guys could please subscribe, I'd really be grateful. I'm trying to. I'm acting as a crime victim advocate right now with my fiance, so we're helping people get the stories out about unsolved homicides, missing people, and I'm trying to shed light still on these pedophiles and bring the names out that publicly into law enforcement so that they can be held accountable or I could stay alive. But so rather than me going back to my life of crime, I'm trying to do this and actually earn a living at it. So getting subscribers goes a long way to accomplishing that. And I'm very grateful for anybody that would subscribe today and buy the books. And I do appreciate it.
Well, we've put all your links and everything in
Thank you.
the link in the description, so you will definitely be able to. People will be able to get a copy of your book,
Okay.
watch your new TV series from inmate to roommate. But I won't talk about that later. It looks very interesting. Anyway,
Thank you.
to get back to the story of how on earth did Ghislaine ask you to actually. She put a hit on Epstein, right? She pretty much.
2005 was the last time I saw her. I was again in trouble with the police. I was again on the run, and I went to the house to try to get some help from Jeffrey if he was there, and or Ghislaine. But they're always, jet setting around. So who knows? I spent some time with her. She knew what I was facing, and went through the whole routine we went through before. We would go upstairs, and we ended up having sex. Blah blah blah, and I ended up like unconscious. I was drugged or something. And when I woke up, I was restrained. I was completely tied down. And she started in tears, really, making requests of me to help her kill Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I was shocked, but it's happened to me before. Several people have come to me like this before. Don't forget, everywhere I went, I had guns. I had silencers. Really, it's really intimidating to deal with somebody who knows a jewel thief, a gun dealer, a cocaine trafficker, and he's got a gun with a silencer. So because of the image I put forth to these people, it's not uncommon for people to, hey, I like to knock my wife off, or hey, these witnesses against me in this case. So it's happened to me several times, and those stories, some of them are public. I'm going to be putting them on my channel. Um, but in this case, she felt the same way, that I was capable of getting things done. And I didn't trust them, and I knew they were wealthy and had international connections. I didn't know then what I know now, which is they had connections with the Mossad and the intelligence agencies and all these groups.
Yeah.
Why come to me is what I said, when you have assets all over the world and you're far wealthier than I am, Ghislaine, why come to me? They said, well, nobody will help me because they have dealings with him and think this is going to go away, because there was an investigation coming. They got wind there was an investigation coming about his activities in Palm Beach. And so she asked me to pull it off. And she told me specifically, that she was promised by Hillary Clinton that she would not be prosecuted for anything with Jeffrey or anything related to anything that went on in the States, that she would use her political influence to ensure that she's not charged with any crime if she took care of Jeffrey. So Hillary Clinton, according to Ghislaine, was encouraging her to get him killed. These people know
Well,
these videos.
it wouldn't surprise me because if you're looking at how much evidence and how much blackmail material he had over clearly everyone, and I mean, even before you telling us this, uh, everywhere in the media we would hear about how he was well known for taping and blackmailing every single person that spent time there, and their antics. So that was a well-known thing that he did that. So
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised. He probably had some stuff on Hillary there. Probably something like the Wiener laptop or something, but who knows? I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Right. So
That
what I know now and then what I've seen, it all makes sense. And that she would get that kind of offer from somebody who I view as extremely arrogant, from Hillary Clinton herself, ensuring she wouldn't be charged with, whatever, child sex trafficking or, helping supply these women to Jeffrey and to this blackmail machine that he had going on. I just, this is a lot of these pieces are coming together for me now because don't forget, we don't have cable TV in prison, we don't have internet in prison. So I didn't realize a lot of this was unfolding. But the pieces that I'm hearing now about their intelligence connections and even her father's connection to the Mossad, Robert Maxwell, who was very wealthy and he was a scammer in his own right, but he helped with the creation of Israel. He was helping these agencies to get weapons and do various things to help the formation of the state of Israel, which in my book's a good thing. But then how do you turn that into filming people having sex with minors? Well, that's a common trap of intelligence agencies, so they can then have assets that they can manipulate and use any way they want. And these two were right in the middle of that. And because I don't have firsthand knowledge of it, I don't think I'm in danger from them. But the stuff that I removed from the house and I got to authorities, I detail in the book how I went about that, and that information, to my knowledge, has never surfaced yet. They've been covering up for these people for so long. They got a sweetheart deal in Florida. Oh, Jeffrey did, excuse me, for a few months in jail, in the county jail. Well, I was in the Palm Beach County jail, not with him, but he did a few months in a stockade, which is very low custody. He was allowed to leave every day. And it was like for having sex with a prostitute or soliciting a prostitute. Well, an underage girl is not a prostitute. That's rape, no matter how you look at it. So it was insulting to the victims, and the victims weren't notified of this deal. And the law requires that they be notified in a case like this. So they were suing to reopen that case against him and find out how he got this deal. Well, come to find out, some of the lawyers that helped craft the deal are allegedly involved. I have to say allegedly, but I know what I saw with my own eyes. And that's all I'm going to detail here. You have to read the book and maybe I'll do some more interviews, but there is people directly involved with his crimes that were crafting the deal that said no other co-conspirators, that resolves the whole case. His plea bargain resolved it for everybody. But what they screwed up was it was only for the Southern District of Florida, that deal. The Southern District, or is it the Eastern District, whatever, the federal court in New York City is a different district altogether. So it didn't give him immunity there, which is why, a few years later, they arrested him when he flew in from Paris and arrested him. And then he realized he wasn't going to get a bond. He realized everything was caving in on him. She had said there was ways to get to him in jail, but they didn't want to do it that way because there'd be too many moving parts. That's why maybe he was murdered. Maybe he was suicide. I don't know. I do know that many people beyond what you're aware of right now connected to this case have turned up dead under mysterious circumstances, including Jean-Luc. How do you pronounce it? Jean-Luc. He was somebody I met in the Palm Beach house. He was bringing models to the house. Another arrogant, pedophile, horrible human being. He got arrested in France a few months ago. No cameras working, and he was found hung, suicide. And these are two that I'm aware of. There's other ones that have been connected that have disappeared or turned up dead, including, I think, with the Anthony Weiner computer. But so it's really not a light topic we're talking about because of the power and the wealth of the people involved. And people are, who are basically nobody before are now coming out of the woodwork saying, hey, this happened to me, or I saw this piece. And I'm very inspired by these female victims because I wish more household staff that was at that house would come forward, because they could certainly be a big help. What I what I do know now is that she is cutting some kind of deal, and that more arrests are possibly imminent. The other side of that is they're thinking of moving her to possibly Australia or New Zealand for her safety, and then bring her back as she's needed to testify against these other people. So if they cut her 20 years down to 5 years or something, but everybody knows who she is. She really wouldn't be safe anywhere, because many of these people are, heads of state, and, you know, people from oil rich countries that are, on these videos. So there's really nowhere for her to hide. I certainly wouldn't want to be in her shoes, but she brought this on herself.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think, I mean, just as a matter of personal opinion, do you think that she will be safe? Do you think they're going to try and do something with her? I mean, she must be very much on.
I don't think they're going to try to do something to her. I think that's no
That's
matter what
imminent.
they're telling her through her lawyers or through whatever messages they can get to her, no matter what they're telling her, don't worry about it. We're going to have you moved overseas and then get it reduced and you'll get out. Whatever bullshit they're feeding her is certainly misinformation, because all they're doing is trying to get her, squeeze her tighter and tighter and tighter until they have a chance to kill her. I 100%, not even, well, maybe 100%, she's not going to make it long. There's no way.
What,
There's no possible way. She has
what,
stuff on some of the most powerful people on this
yeah.
planet. So
Isn't it interesting though that since her trial, not one person's been arrested, right? In her trial, but interesting. They've had so many diversions since then. You know, they're always trying to divert us with. Then it was Will and Chris, and then it or whatever fighting on the stage, and then there was the war in the Ukraine, and then there's this, and everything is really a diversion to take us away from the truth of what's really happening. And the bottom line is, if the general public had to dig deep enough into the Ghislaine Maxwell case, everything you need to know is there. Everything you need to know, and who's doing what and with who, etc., is right there with the Ghislaine Maxwell and case. So I think
it's
people
it's
need.
it's interesting. Somebody I love has coined the term distraction circus, and that's exactly what it is. Don't pay attention to what's over here. Look at this shiny fish for a minute over here. They
Yeah.
just distract. Now, interesting, and I didn't know all these connections until recently. But my mentor, one of the people that supported me in prison, besides Tom Madden, he was the vice president of NBC. He now owns a public relations firm. Besides Tom, there was Peter Tickton. Now, Peter Tickton is an attorney who went to military academy with Donald Trump, and he's now friends with Donald Trump. Well, Peter Tickton is my attorney now, my personal attorney, my mentor, my friend. He just filed a gigantic civil racketeering lawsuit against Hillary Clinton, and he wrote this book as well.
Oh wow, what makes Trump tick? Yeah.
Yeah, by Peter Tickton, and he went to the military academy with Trump, but he of course didn't tell me anything in advance. But a few weeks ago, he filed a racketeering lawsuit against her for all the interference with the Trump presidency and the false Russia hoax and all these false claims against Trump that the Democrats in this country kept putting out, and it was really orchestrated by Clinton and some of the people around her. Um,
Wow.
so, yeah, I think some more is coming soon, which I can't mention either. But it's just crazy the connections that I've made that are really aware of these same people and are finally going after them at various levels. Um, I don't
It.
know how, he's Bill Clinton's getting pretty old, but Hillary swears she's going to run for president again. And I would hate to see her after what I've seen personally. You can believe all the rumors about all the deaths and murders they've been connected to since Mena, Arkansas, in the 80s and 90s when he was governor. And, there was cocaine coming in from South America, and there was weapons going back out to the Contras in Central America. You can believe all those stories and all the women he's allegedly raped or, had sex with, and then, killed them or their husbands or had them killed. I know what I saw. Fast forward, going forward, I know what I saw, and my attorney has so much evidence against them. It's just mind bending.
Right.
I'll send you a copy of the racketeering lawsuit. He actually filed it a few weeks ago, and he's
I'd
representing
love
Donald Trump.
Wow, I'd love to see that. That'll be awesome. Thank you. I've
Yeah,
actually just got someone is asking a question here. And I don't know if you would know this. Will you ask William if Marina Abramovich is related to GHISLAINE? Do you know who Marina Abramovich is? She's that spirit cooker artist.
she's who?
She's Marina Abramovich. She is that artist, the spirit cooker. She's also very much part of the satanic cults and does the blood and the cannibalism and all of that stuff. So this weird.
I have to see. I didn't have to see a picture of her to know, like, if I ever saw her in the house or the videos. Um, a lot of
Okay.
people, like for example, I called Ghislaine G. I couldn't pronounce her name, at the time. Now I'm a little better at it, but I'm from New York City. I didn't know how to pronounce her name. So, in fact, this book here that I wrote, you see it behind me, you see it here. The name of this book, I thought it would be a little disrespectful, so I didn't do it. But because I called her G for so many years, I was going to call my book the G Spot. So it was about me meeting her at the Palm Beach.
Yeah. Well, I think they would definitely have an appropriate double meaning by what we're talking
Right.
about here. Yeah.
So
So, okay, so basically then, so you obviously didn't kill Jeffrey Epstein. What happened
I
after?
can't hear you. I've got something in my eye. How do you know I didn't?
Okay.
How do you know I didn't?
Well, I'm just assuming that you didn't. So my assumption is you ran like hell after that conversation, right? So
Never,
I mean,
never look back. Never look back.
did you ever go back? Did you ever go back after that?
That was the last time I saw her. Like I said, I had legal problems of my own at the time. She was threatening to turn me in, and I was basically held prisoner by her and another assistant of hers. Um, and pretty horrible things were done to me to try to convince me that I better help them. And yeah, I got out of there, I would think, with my life, and it was only by caving in and pretending that I was going to help her. She gave me suggestions. She said she can get a hold of different things I could use, and she needed to be out of the country, an alibi when it happened. I mean, she had this all mapped out. That she'd been thinking about it. Um, and
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's just absolutely crazy.
yeah,
Wow. So, someone was actually saying in the chat early on as well that there's a rumor that he was abusing her physically. Are you aware of anything like that? That anything like that happened?
I think there was he kind of held her in contempt. He didn't seem interested in her romantically, although she seemed very much in love and willing to please Jeffrey. He seems like at that time that he was just, she was a necessary evil in his life. You know, um, there was a negative comment he made about her. I can't think of it right now. I put it in the book, but it was I forget, like, her being an annoyance or a nuisance or necessary. So she was more like an appliance to him to get what he really wanted, which was a steady stream of young girls to satisfy him, not only himself, but to make available to these people he was blackmailing. I mean, who was this guy that he can get? I think I learned later, I didn't know then, he can get, what was it, tens of millions of dollars or $100 million from Les Wexner, the guy who founded, Victoria's Secret. I knew
Yeah.
about the, Victoria's Secret connection a long time ago. I didn't know the extent of it, and really what he looked like until I saw certain videos, with him, with boys and all that. But it's come. I don't want to mix up what I personally experienced with what I learned later. But I can tell you
Yeah.
something. You're in a very much in the media blackout to some degree in prison. You see the basic stories on the networks. You don't see the stuff I've been able to see now and make the connections, especially after speaking to you and realizing, well, what happened to that baby that was brought in the house by that one girl, and she's been back there a few times. And was it a babysitting thing, or was it something more lines like you're explaining that was going on with these type of people? I don't know, but it's really made me quite sad over the last few days since I learned about this.
Oh, yeah. I do believe that this is something that will definitely happen a lot at these places. From the people I've been speaking to of the past 2 years, especially, here, I mean, babies are their thing, much to our shock and horror. Oh, yeah. And then you
Well,
also look at why, because really that's what this satanic Luciferian system is about, That's their religion.
well,
And
I am a Christian now, and I'm not certainly not perfect by any stretch. I'll use profanity once in a while, and I'm not this perfect beat you over the head Bible toting guy, but I do know that the only difference in prison that was in my life that really gave me change of heart was getting closer and getting more involved with scripture and chaplain activities. And it really meant a lot to me to really open my eyes to
yeah.
spiritual things. And
Wow.
I do believe what it's in the Bible. It talks about how Satan is the god of this earth, and he's only given a certain amount of time to do his damage, to the people on earth, and he's really in control, other than to the people that have a relationship with God. But the closer you become to God, the more challenges you're going to receive, and the more you try to change from your past life, the more people are going to come at you and try to discourage you. But you just have to keep your focus on your faith and just keep going and know that God is ultimately in control, and Satan's only been given a limited time on this earth, and he knows it. And
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely. And currently, what's important to realize as well, as I say this to people who are not aware of what's going on and kind of like turning a blind eye. We understand that, yes, God did give Lucifer domain over the earth. He kicked him out of heaven and said, okay, you've got domain over the earth for X amount of time. And then I'd say, well, which planet are we on right now? Earth, right?
I
And it
think
makes
that's
it makes perfect sense that Lucifer himself, or Satan, whatever, would have his top generals in place in the top positions, like the politicians, the bankers, the churches, the entertainment industry. So of course, we are here and we are under Luciferian domain right now. So anyone who thinks we're not needs to think again, and that's all about deception, lies, deceit, and we have to practice a lot of discernment to
being
understand that.
as something you've been covering for a while. And I ask you a question now: are there people that were at that high level in that lifestyle that have completely pulled out and are now going public? Look, this is really going on, and I was part of it. Is there somewhere where somebody like me can look that material up and see, wow, that person really was up there, and we're not all crazy talking about this and the little bits and pieces we're getting a hold of, but this person was a true insider to that end of it, the sacrifice, the babies,
Yes.
the Luciferians.
Well, one of our main guests that we have on our channel is Jessie Zabota, and she was actually trained to be the Queen Mother of Darkness within the Illuminati system. So she was put into the system from the age of 5, trained with people like Gloria Vanderbilt, Hillary Clinton, Bill, war part of her quadrant, Elon Musk,
Did you
some of
say
the
Hillary
Rothschilds.
again?
Yeah, Hillary again. She's involved everywhere. And one of the other survivors as well, overcomers that I speak to, Hillary was one of her main abusers as well. So Hillary's there, and that's why I say it's common knowledge that she likes girls, and she likes young girls and women. So
A
that's
friend
her.
of mine, an acquaintance, was a detective in Orlando, and his best friend was a Secret Service agent who worked in the Clinton White House. And he said back then that Hillary was known for that also, and that there was a certain black staff member of the White House that was like a favorite of hers, and it was well known that she would go off and have sex with her in the White House. This is from a Secret
Yeah,
Service agent.
yeah, yeah. We when I had Michael Jaco on the show maybe a year ago, he's also ex-CIA. As far as I know, he was one of the super soldiers as well. If I do speak under correction there, but as far as I know, he had that training, and he was speaking about how they literally. These guys, the CIA, Navy SEAL dudes, whoever look after them, at the door, are letting kids in. to Hillary and friends.
What do you mean when you say super soldier? I've never really heard that term. I'm not sure what that means.
It's a program that the CIA has had that pretty much has taken kids with certain levels of spiritual intelligence, spiritual gifts, and they've done what they've called MK Ultra to them and created these perfect soldiers through mind control, through DID, which is dissociative identity disorder, which is trauma-based mind control, and they've literally turned them into super soldiers where they pretty much control them like a remote and they just do whatever they want them to do.
Yeah, that's so stuff like that. Some of my concern, telling these stories. I've been in, prison 18 years and staying quiet about a lot of this until I started going to counseling a few years ago. And, now being free and telling these, the experience I had, I get concerned about that. What you just said, there was a series I saw called Killing Eve. Have you seen that?
No.
It
Is it
was
on
a
Netflix?
there was a lady in Russia that supposedly, I don't think it was based on a true story, but it tracks what you just said, where they got all these babies that had no families any longer, the KGB back in the day, and they raised them to be these super soldiers. A lot of them were women, and they were KGB assassins. They could put anywhere.
Oh yeah.
They're hyper educated. They have command of many languages and weapons, and they would put
They're
them all
mind
over
controlled, yeah. They're
and
mind
they
controlled.
blend into anywhere, and then they kill
Yeah.
whoever they have to kill. Killing
They're
Eve,
mind controlled
I think it was
for
on
sure.
AMC.
Yeah. There's that going on. And I know that we're out of time, William, but just one last question I have also, and I'm curious myself. What do you know about Epstein Island? Did you ever go there? Were you ever invited there? Did you ever have privy to anyone who had been there?
I can't hear you. I have something in my eye. No, I was never there.
You stop right
I was
now.
never there. I saw video from there because it was clearly
Okay.
a beautiful island and out there. But no, I've never personally been there. And again, some of that is discussed here. So
Okay. All right.
thank you for your support, everybody. I appreciate it, and thank you for having me on. And there's more things that I can't get into until I get approval from my attorney or
Yeah.
from law enforcement, because that's a dangerous thing too, because whatever you say to them seems to get back to some of these people.
Yeah. Well, we are very well aware that everything is involved. Like really, the CIA, as Tom Althouse calls them, the Alphabet Boys. Tom Althouse, I don't know if you know him. He was actually the author of the movie The Matrix, the screenwriter, the scriptwriter, and it was stolen from him by Warner Brothers. So there's also
Sounds about
that
it.
kind of, yeah, very very interesting. He's a great guy, but he calls them the Alphabet Boys. So we know that the Boys are very much involved in this stuff. We also know that there's psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors, nurses, specialists, everything. They are planted and infiltrated all over. The objective is that they don't get people out, or people, they want people to stay in the system and in
You
this
putting
entrap.
you putting this out so publicly. Have you ever been threatened, or have your life threatened, or been attacked, or anything weird
Mm,
happened to you?
once,
I need to
but
know what to look. I need to know what to look for.
yeah, once. No, definitely. It was in October last year, and in fact, yeah, I had someone come into my house and attack me while I was sleeping, but they didn't get very far. Um, I am divinely protected. I know this, and I'm very grateful for that as well. So I just continue to do what I do, and you know, provide a platform for people such as yourself that need to get these stories out there. You know, the world needs to know what is going on, um, and people need to wake up because when we're listening to, especially when you're talking about the royal family,
Right.
and the child transportation, and we use the word child, the word child transportation. Of course, everyone I think knows what we're talking about. That happens in the tunnels underneath all these castles of theirs. It is horrific. The world, millions and millions of people bow and curtsy and adore these people. yet they are doing the most obscene, horrific, depraved things to tiny human beings, and no one can even. Can you imagine being one of the victims of these people? And you're trying to tell your story and you're told you're a liar. And
Yeah.
it's so frustrating. So I think it's definitely time for people, to come out and tell these stories. And I'm very grateful that you have. And I know we want to take it in another area as well. We're going to be expanding more maybe on your book and your TV show and lots of other things that you're doing as well. I know you're doing some amazing work now with prisoners and with your inmate to roommate program. I'm looking
Right.
forward to definitely hearing more about that. That sounds super cool.
Yeah.
Really, it does.
Also, again, we're doing this interview program starting soon, much like this, where we're going to have family members on of victims of their family member was murdered. And for example, Trina McCreary was turned a cell phone in and made a case against her boyfriend. And whatever, she turned up murdered, unfortunately. And there's Larry Revis in Fresno, California. Blake Van Delson was found dead with a gunshot wound in his head in the snow with his hands in his pocket, and they told the family it was a suicide.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there's cases like this that are clearly somebody's covering something up, and we want to bring light to these cases and try to help the families and the law enforcement have a platform to explain what's really going on and maybe the status of the investigations. So if you go to official William Steele, you'll see more about that, and we thank you for this chance to get these stories out there. Also, actually innocent people like Dr. Leslie Marlin Scholl. In this country, he was entrapped. He was a doctor, went to prison for 13 years. He's out now. We're going to be covering his story and trying to get him exonerated.
Wow.
Yeah.
I look forward to following you and
Thank
hearing
you.
more and more what it is because I really think, I'm amazed and I just thank God for you guys that have been in there and have the courage to actually come and share. And I know it must be very dangerous. You got to watch yourself, especially when you've had first-hand interaction with these types of characters. They don't play. They don't play
In
nice.
all of my books, I put a quote in the beginning of it, a quote from Edmund Burke, and it's all that's needed for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing.
Yeah.
And I look at my life like this. I started off on a very good, noble path, trying to be this good guy that helped everybody, and who knows, work for the CIA. And I tried coke and I deviated big time, but I'm trying to bring it full circle now, use my experiences to help people. And when I autograph a book, I always use a red pen or a red marker because I tell people who will listen that I do that in memory of the victims, the blood of the
Mm.
victims. Well,
Yeah.
as a Christian, the blood of Jesus. I always try to sign in red. And so to me, that quote really means something. And I'm trying to really turn my life around and help people. And I'm grateful for getting these platforms and for the platform I was handed with a TV show that's going to air in a few days. So
I look forward to seeing that. I really, really do.
thank you.
And William, I most definitely look forward to having you back on the show again. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining us here on Aquarius Rising Africa, sharing your story far and wide. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you for your
Okay.
courage. Thank you for your bravery. And I really look forward to having you back again. I don't know, is there anything else in closing you would just like to say to our guests before we bid you farewell for now?
I don't know anybody here. Just any words of encouragement or prayer you could send my way is certainly appreciated. I'm grateful, so grateful for this audience and my support. I'm not arrogant at all about the things I have going on now. Older than I was when this started, but very humbled. I'm deeply humbled by all the attention and being able to speak to people in your country. And I'll tell you what, most of my books are selling in Australia and the UK. I guess because of the Maxwell royal family connection and all that.
Yeah.
But so I'm grateful to have the overseas audience, and you guys are welcome to ask any questions you want, and and I'm open to invitations for more shows. So thank you so much. I look forward to getting to know you better. Thank you.
Thank you, William, and thank you so much, guys and girls, for catching up with us here with William this evening. Very, very interesting story you have to tell. Crazy, actually, to think that these things. Yeah, I just I marvel at how these guys are just right here and no one knows, they don't have a big horn and big ears or whatever coming out of their head. They look like the rest of us, so we don't really um, take too much notice, right? But anyway, really great to chat with you, William. Thank you so much. If you guys haven't already, please give us a like, a share, and a subscribe. You're on Aquarius Rising Africa 2, second channel up and running, and also with solutions at Aquarius Rising Africa 2. And find us on BitChute, find us on Facebook, find us on Rumble, find us on Twitter. The back channels are ODYSEE, Rumble, BitChute. I'm not sure about BitChute, but Rumble. So please, guys, catch us on Rumble. This show, we're going to be taking it off just to be safe, off here within the next hour or so. And we're going to be putting it onto our Rumble channel. So please go and catch the interview on Rumble. What William has to say, particularly regarding GHISLAINE and Jeffrey. And, of course, we know there's lots of royal connections there as well, which is really what they don't want us to know about. But at the end of the day, it's been secret for way too long. We won't be quiet anymore about these things. So God bless you all, guys. Take good care of yourselves. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Mwah. We'll see you very, very soon.
Bye.
And